Oh, sorry. I was ahead of myself. Didn't get that in there. So, all right, we're at the first agenda item. Call to order, roll call.
Blake Ellefson.
Here.
We have Gary Eater,
Here.
Pat Kinney,
Here.
Jim Schultz, and do we have Paul Wilharm? Do we have Paul Wilharm online? I see Gary's online.
All right, so no Paul. Paul's the new rep for LaPointe, right? Okay. Okay, so moving on. Dan's gonna be excused. We'll let Dan be excused today. He did tell me ahead of time that he wouldn't be here, so that's nice of the administrator. All right, public comments. Do we have any public comments online or in? Doesn't appear to be anyone in here. Anyone online? We'll give you one more shot. Anyone online or in here? Public comments. Hearing none. We'll move to approval of agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Ader makes a motion. Do we have a second? Looks like Jim. All right. All those in favor? Approval of the agenda, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Moving forward, approval of minutes. So from our April 22nd meeting, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
This is Jim. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Jim, for a begrudging motion.
Gary, I'll second.
All right, we've got Gary on a second. Mr. Ader. All right, all those in favor? Any comments on those? Nope, no comments. All right, all those in favor of the approval of that? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on, right on to zoning. So number 5, first item up on there is minimum lot sizes for residential properties.
Okay, I don't know what was to be discussed here, so I kind of tried to get prepared just because we were told to put this on the agenda. So we printed off for all of you, you should have the subdivision control ordinance 7.1. For most properties in Ashland County, they would fall under 7.1, which is lots not served by sewer. So that means they have a private sewer system. If you have a private sewer system, you can build on a 30,000 square foot lot, which is about 3/4 of an acre. Pretty small lot you can build on. And along with that, if you see the map that Crecia has up there, I don't know how much you guys follow up on this, but the purple, well, let me go back one step here. So our county has two divisions in the two districts. One is forestry recreation district and the other is unrestricted. That purple is forestry recreation. Unrestricted is all the other color. So as you can see, for the most part, anything along Highway 13, all the way from one end of the county to the other, is in unrestricted. You can do anything according to the law. If you get into the purple, that is the resident, or the, what do they call it? The forestry recreational. It's a little tighter laws, but for the most part, them are where there's cabins and whatnot out there. So going back to our minimum lot size, anywhere in that unrestricted, the yellow area, from one end of the county to the other, if you have 30,000 square feet or about 3/4 of an acre, you can build a home on it. It's pretty easy to get a house in Ashland County. I don't know if you guys want to consider anything different. Dan just mentioned to put it on here, so
So I'm on the Farmland Preservation Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Ag Committee, which is a committee for the comprehensive plan update. And so through the Farmland Preservation Committee meeting last time, this topic came up as far as lot size. And the reason it came up is, I think we're all familiar that in the rural area, it's not uncommon for people to buy a 40 or whatever, put one house on it. And then, you kind of got this proliferation of houses scattered and it breaks up farmland, it breaks up woodland for, a lot of the wildlife. They like to stay, in connected pieces of woods instead of, patches of woods. So we wanted to look at this to see if from a zoning perspective, so I asked for it to be on the agenda. I talked to Dan to see if there's anything that we would want to consider that in some way might be beneficial to Ashland County in terms of farmland preservation and also protecting woodland streams, et cetera. And then one of the questions that I don't know the answer to is, does each township then have authority to make decisions related to size of lots for building?
so as far as I know, if the township has zoning, then they do. If they don't have a zoning and planning department, then it falls back to the county. Yeah. So
So-
to my knowledge, we only deal with the city of Ashland, city of Mellon, and Butternut, and the town of LaPointe. Them are the ones that have their own zoning.
Do you think most people that build in the rural areas are aware of this ordinance, or do they think, because I didn't realize this either until I had asked, or do they think that, under state it's 5 acres unless the county chooses otherwise? Do you think a lot of people think it's 5 acres and then,
So I don't know if did we print that off, Krish, the 5 acre? So we have a ordinance that says if you have 5 acres or less, it has to be certified, surveyed. So people think that means they have to have 5 acres to build. So I answer that question quite often when people think they have to have 5 acres.
so what about shared wells? If 2 people wanted to build close enough to share a well, can they do that?
Yep, there's nothing against it,
Okay.
and it's actually pretty common. Yep.
I think one of the, I think what you're saying is a goal is to understand directionally, how do we, as a county, incentivize maybe some development that's more concentrated, like in a township or, supporting that as a county. I think right now, like I mentioned earlier, Bayfield County, they brought it out that they're gonna give developers property. And in Bayfield County, they have higher restrictions than we do, where they have a minimal of at least 5 acres, I believe it's something like that. But they're gonna identify properties that they're gonna give to developers as long as those developers build 4 units on a property or more, because they see the opportunity to increase housing. And so again, I think this gets back to at zoning, like what is our goal long term? We want to make it so people are building here a bit more. I think we're at the lowest end of all the counties in Wisconsin, and it's not our fault. It's where we live, right? Our county's huge, but like everybody wants 40 or more acres and they want to build their house, and that's not really helping our population growth. And so I think these discussions are good to have. And the other flip side is we also want to keep our forests. And we want to keep our farms as much as possible. And so all of it plays a bit together, but I was shocked at the size. It's actually kind of small to have that size of a lot. But
When you get that small, you have to have a very good plan if you want to fit a sewer system and a house and a garage and still meet the setbacks. That's pretty small, but it can be done. I don't think I've ever seen one yet that's small that's actually built on, even because ordinance allows it. Most people have, some of the real old lots that are close to that size, they've already got cabins on them. Anything new anymore is never that small. I've seen 2 and 3 acre lots, but them are even kind of rare. It's more like you said, people want to have more acreage. I would say 6 acres is probably the most common. And that's so they can get away from the certified survey.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because if they just say somebody's got a 40 or something that wants to give the land to
Mhm.
a child or something, they'll give 5 acres because it's just a quick claim deed rather than a full survey.
Well, I don't really know if we have anything to make a motion, or I think it was just for informational purposes, or
Yeah, it was for information, and those of us on the Farmland Preservation Committee, it didn't seem like any of us knew the answer to this. So it's good for us to know. I think it'd be good for the public to know. There's a lot of farm families, especially dairy farm families, where multiple houses were close together, and, they carve off 5 or more acres to do that. But the houses, physically were still quite close to the property lines, and shared wells are common. And so I think it's good for people to know that, because if you've got a group of people and, families and stuff, if they want to build close to each other, share the well, share a driveway, maybe share an outbuilding, if they want a few horses or just, a machine shed and stuff, then it's easier to share some of that stuff. Because if you can get by with one driveway, one well, you can reduce your costs, and then, it wasn't uncommon between generations, helping with daycare, sharing a garden space and stuff like that. That was more common back, years ago, but I think there are families up here who want to be physically close and share some of that, be close together. And I don't know how many of them know that that's allowed. Yeah, I think it's good for people to know this. So if they choose to, I think socially it's good to be, because I grew up that way with my grandparents, in the same property in one house and then us in another. There's a lot of benefits to that. But it also meant that we weren't creating a larger footprint, for that housing in a separate place. I just didn't know we could do it in Ashland County, so. But then it has that side benefit of protecting farmland and woodland. For people that like to hunt, some places there's so many houses, you don't hardly dare shoot. There's that issue that's been brought up too.
well, I think it's a good topic. I'm glad I know now, so I can start developing that 0.75 acre next to my with shared lots and everything like Pat's saying.
I'll just mention this, what I had said earlier, in our subdivision control in 6.20, it says a certified survey map must be prepared when any existing lot or parcel of land 5 acres or less in area is acquired, adding and conveying land to create a new lot or parcel of land. So 5 acres or less, a certified survey map must be done.
If you were to take a 5 acre parcel and make it into 5 1 acre parcels, it would have to be a certified
Mhm.
survey to have those buildable 1 acre
Yep.
lots.
Technically a plat or 5 lots.
So you're talking about incentivizing in Bayfield County a few minutes ago. Village of Mason they actually have a house going up this year. They've had lots to give away if someone would build. Is there any reason Ashland County couldn't say, if people are looking at that survey as a reason not to have smaller lots, especially adjacent or maybe splitting a 5 or 6 acre one? I had some survey work done at the end of April. We did total length would be a bit over 340s. It was $1,400. So surveying a few acres, especially if it's open ground, it's not a huge expense, but could Ashland County say, if you are going to build, let's say somebody wants to split a 6-acre lot into a couple of 3s, could we consider saying we will reimburse you the surveying cost when that house gets built, to incentivize that? Because we'll get added tax base. Do you know if we can do
I
that?
think, and that's the key, is exactly what you said, is that we take some of the costs on the front end and bore it as part of the county's budget, but it comes back to us in the form of these developed lots with houses that are taxed and the assessed value is going up significantly. So what I think is a good thing for us to look at some point is identifying properties that Ashland County owns that meet certain requirements of acreage so that we could develop them. I look down south, there's a lot of population growth, right? And I think what Pat said is that if we had a 10-acre, whatever, just parcel that was identified and you could put 10 homes there, I think there would be a market for people wanting a condensed, shared wells, maybe partially on a couple, 2 houses per well, but that's a thing that I think is real. There's a demand for that. I just think that when one individual gets a property, they want to keep it for themselves. And what we want to identify is someone that can make it so it's gonna be 10 developed houses eventually. And so I think if we can identify some of those properties, or at least that we own already, or possibly in our roles right now, I think it makes sense to do that.
I will tell you this, that when I get realtors or businessmen that are looking to do something like this, they want to build some kind of investment, say in homes or apartments. What I've found is when they start digging into it and find out that for the most part we have clay soil and their septic system is going to be a mound system, they back right out of it because it puts so much expense up front. So that the clay soil really controls how much building is going out of the city sanitary. If you're within where the city serves the sewer, and it don't matter if it's town of LaPointe or here or in Glidden, as soon as you get out of that city sewer, you got a private system. And if it's going to be a mound, they're 20 to 30,000 now. And as soon as you start talking multiple homes, and you're talking huge mound, there was a mound put in Marengo for the trailer court about maybe 5 years ago. And that served 19 units, and it was 92,000 5 years ago. So when people see that kind of money up front, they just back right out, and then they start looking for property closer to the city where there's sewer. And Glidden has a sanitary district. So that something like that, if there was a sanitary district in Marengo or somewhere where there's an area that's growing, then I could see people building there because they can tap into the sewer. So that makes a big difference.
And thank you for that color, because again, I think some of us here don't have that insight, so that's helpful for me. Pat, do you have any more? I know you always love talking about stuff, so I want to give you an opportunity if you have anything else here, because this is the chance.
I do know from asking about 10 years ago that when I had asked if someone improves their property, could we give them some of their property tax back, because their taxes will go up with improvements. Could we give them back for a period of time to incentivize people improving their property? And I was told under state law, we can't refund some or all of property taxes to incentivize improvements. So if we did do something on those mound systems, and yeah, I know they're expensive. I actually have a conventional permit where I'm at, and I know that's a lot less than the mounds. But, we'd on the one hand want to make sure someone's actually building before we put money into it. And then it would have to be something that didn't say property taxes, so some kind of agreement to do that. Because if they're putting in holding tanks, that makes it more expensive to live there each year because you're pumping all of that. So the mound systems in the long run are cheaper. And so if there was a way of incentivizing this that didn't mention property taxes, but yet long-term helps us financially, we could look at that.
Another thing I've noticed since I've been on doing this work for the county is especially the southern part of our county. It draws people that are more like seasonal homes, cabins. They want 40 acres or more because it's for hunting or just coming up to ride their ATV or something like that. So them are the kind of people that we're drawing for the most part. It's not so much full-blown homes. They're seasonal. I see that a lot. And I know I suppose there's quite a bit of that in Bayfield County too, but it's just a little different in Bayfield County. They draw from a different area too. We see a lot of Minneapolis people in Bayfield County. I would say our southern part of the county, we see more people from Chicago, southern Wisconsin, not so much from Minneapolis area.
This is true. We've noticed a demographic change in Bayfield, especially as you go further towards Bayfield, Minnesota. 612ers. That's what we call them. Okay, so I think that's good information. Moving to 5B, issued permits, revenue account, April and May.
So up on the screen, I only have the April spreadsheet. I did hand out in person what the May spreadsheet looks like. I also did include a condensed version of the issued permits and revenue account that I turn into the clerk's office every month. That's my end of the month deposit form. I thought it might be a little bit easier to look at. I do plan on working with the spreadsheet to try to make it a little bit more visually appealing here, but these are just what came in the last couple months. And let me know if you have any questions.
I will add, if you see this little, for the last 5 years, a printout of, these are dwellings that permits we've given out. Most of them are dwellings. Some of them are RVs I see and stuff, but most of them are dwelling. And I just asked Krish if she would print this out for the last 5 years so we could see what our county's done in the last 5 years. And I'll just mention a couple of so in 2020, looks like we had 35 dwelling permits. This is excluding the city limits. This is just out in the country. In 21, we had 55. You can see it jumped way up. That was COVID time. That's way above average. 22, we went back to 30. And it keeps pretty much holding right in that area now. In 23, there's 32. 24, we're at 29. It's actually a little low. And right now we are just about, I think we're at 13, maybe even a little couple since then. So we're probably around 15 as of right now, halfway through. So we're right on track. So average of 30 homes per year come into our county.
I don't know, interest rates, costs of everything. affordability way down. So I can see last year being lower, COVID being the highest, and then trending lower. This year looks like it's going to be a down year because busy time is usually now. So we're looking again at kind of low net new construction, which hinders us a little bit on our finances. Obviously there's nothing you guys can do. So we're not yelling at you. We just need to kind of bring this up at the county level and make sure our constituents. I talked a lot about with these guys. I think you heard Mark AA is giving away property to developers, 4+ units. Not anything for us to do today, but keeping it on the radar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wood tariffs on Canadian wood products are a big part of the problem. As most houses are made with Canadian lumber, with the price going up 25%, it's making home building more expensive.
Well, thank you for summarizing it and giving it the old way. I appreciate it. I'll get my glasses out so I can read. But anyways, thank you again for doing all that work. So we're going to move to land description, discussion items on 6A, property subject to tax deed, our favorite conversation.
We'll peek over at,
It's our fun one.
good enough. Okay, property subject to tax deed. Not too many changes to our list this month. I don't have any properties on here that I'm recommending for foreclosure at this time. So that's pretty easy. After this month, you're gonna see this list start to grow again as we're sending out our new notices for 2022 delinquent tax this month. And that'll go all through the summer. So this list will start to get big again. That's all I have for this list.
For the county-owned properties, you have it in this document, or have you talked to a realtor as far as listing them?
I have not. Do we want to move on to that part of the meeting? I guess I was still on.
Or,
So if we're just thinking about the list of highlights, it doesn't look like month over month there was really any changes that I saw on properties getting foreclosed or recommending.
No.
The same ones kind of are the same ones.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay on that, on the four. Yeah. So yeah, why don't we move to the B?
Yeah, so I have not talked to a realtor on this. I just wanted to bring this up because I forgot to talk. I had it attached last meeting, but forgot to talk about it. But we do need to set values for these properties in order to sell them. So the committee here can set the values, the appraised values for the properties. So what I did was listed all the properties, descriptions, their size, like acreage, what their assessed value was before we foreclosed on them, and then what our preliminary expenses are.
So the list that I'm looking at, this blue list that you've got up there, we own every one of these. And now, before we can sell them, our committee's going to assign a value
Yes.
to these.
Yes, we have to.
And Dan, please take it away.
Yeah, Jen, if I'm not mistaken, they have to be set at market value. For the first time you sell them.
I thought the committee just, I mean, it has to be around market value. I guess I don't
So,
have the whole ordinance in front of.
so, I would suggest we hire a real estate agent to sell all these properties. The real estate agent is gonna set the price based on market value and their experience and what the market is currently. And that way we save ourselves the problem of a former owner coming back saying, well, you sold this property for $10,000, really worth $20,000. So where's my $10,000? Whereas if we have a real estate agent do it, they're selling it for market value and have an incentive to sell it at as high a value as possible. And that should conform with Act 235.
Yep, either method conforms with the act. And I think assessed value, the assessor has to get pretty close to market value when they make the assessment, so it's up to the committee which route they want to choose.
So if we say that we're gonna sell, let's just say the one lot for 10,000, the Bert Schmidt Circle. The assessed value says 10,000 prior assessed. We have preliminary expenses of 1,800. If I were here in this room with no other insight other than to see this document, I would say we're going to list this for $10,000 because I have nothing here. I have no pictures. I've never been there. I don't know anything about this property. Not one of these people here knows anything. And so I would just base it based on the 10,000. Is that fair?
Okay.
I'm asking you, do you think that's appropriate?
I mean, we can pull up the aerial photos of properties if that's what you're concerned about.
No,
but
that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the fact that we have no ability based on our sitting here on other than the assessed value. Like, I don't have any idea what this property, some of these pictures here are from different things, but I think we're going to have to do like Dan said. We're going to have to hire someone that can validate what these are actually worth, because
yeah, that's fine. We can do that. I just wasn't sure because we've kind of flip-flopped a little bit, so I was presenting this option, but if we're going back to Realtor, then that's fine.
My biggest concern with using assessed value is a lot of these towns aren't conforming with state statutes. So they're like at 60-some% of what market value is. So we'd have to look at each individual town and to even get an idea. So whereas if we use a real estate agent, they're going to know the market already.
Pat.
So when it says prior assessed value, is that for the year in which we acquired it, or is it? And so they're out of, some of those or most of them are out of date anyway.
They're on the wrong date?
No, out of date. So if a property,
Oh.
if we took it in 2015, the Bert Schmidt
Sure,
Circle, that's out of date anyway.
sure.
So do we have to pay the assessor if we asked him to have a reassessment?
I don't think the assessor would assess these properties because they're tax exempt now. That's why I have prior assessed value and I don't have a current assessed value because these are all tax exempt now because we own them.
Well, the reason I'm asking is if we have to pay the assessor and then we still need to hire a realtor, then we might as well just go to the realtor and have him set
Sure. So
market
yeah.
value.
So I guess what I'm saying is that we typically don't hire the town's assessor to assess something for us. I've never heard of that, I guess, so.
Right, and so, two options. One is hire an assessor and then we hire the realtor, or we just hire the realtor. Hiring the realtor seems what we're gonna do anyway, sooner or later.
Right, so we wouldn't hire an assessor, we'd hire an appraiser then if if the committee doesn't want to set the values. So we'd have to have it appraised then.
But we first want to try to sell them, and then if we can't sell them on the first go, then we can come back and say, okay, we couldn't get 10,000 for this,
Right,
then what should we
right.
set a price for?
So now we have to have appraisals? No, don't, no. So
No,
we can just
you're-
go to,
I mean,
we can just go to a realtor
Right.
with this list.
They could do a market
Right, it's
analysis.
either the
Yeah.
realtor does it with their appraiser or we do it on our own with an appraiser and list it.
I know I mean, like when you buy a house, the appraisal's done for the bank.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones who want to know what the value is, so they want to know if the mortgage is not going to be, make sure it's not underwater already. If you do it a cash deal, there's never, there's
So
us-
if
it's
we
not a
take,
requirement.
if we take this list in its entirety over to a realtor, which we're gonna probably do, they're gonna come back and say, I only want 2 of these,
Yep.
We have to
and
say you take them all or none.
all or none.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, and there's going to be some challenging ones on here, like the Birchmont Circle one you mentioned and the one below that. I mean, those are both, they're literally roads. They're private roads that someone had as like an outlot. That they said, I don't want this road anymore. It's the county's problem, so we'll have to find someone to, buy a road. Hmm.
Well, and if those fail to sell it by a realtor, we could always approach the neighbors and see if they want to purchase the property and what they're willing to pay.
So my plan would be, even if we send it to a realtor, is to notify adjacent landowners and say, hey, these are for sale, contact this realtor. So,
So we're all in agreement. We're gonna use a realtor and they're gonna look at this list and they're gonna take them all. We're gonna approach a specific, or we're gonna give multiple realtors the option.
That's up to the committee.
can I get it in a motion?
Sure. Do you have a specific realtor that you would like us to approach? Do you want to?
I think that's not my decision. I don't know. How do we go
So-
about getting a realtor?
Let's,
Do we do bids? Do we just pick one?
Pat, go ahead.
I think we should send out a proposal, request for proposal on this. Because part of it is, there's some things that I think they can sell fairly quickly, and obviously that's of interest to them. But then there's all this other stuff. And, you mentioned you were going to send out letters. Well, I think part of what we should request on service is they do that, very specific about, they're going to do a market analysis, they're going to come up with a price. And we want to make sure that what we're asking them to do is such that if it doesn't sell, then we can then come back and set a price and know that what they've done clears that first hurdle of trying to sell it for market value. So I'd have to look back at the ordinance, but to make sure that what we're asking them to do addresses the first step of trying to sell it for market value. And then if we're going to lower the price, then we lower the price, and then they're still trying to sell it for us. And they can send the letters to the adjacent owners so that we're not, using staff time for that.
Okay, that would be fantastic for me. I'm swamped. I am swamped as it
Yeah.
is.
And then like if Dan was saying, if the previous owner has any beefs, he could take it up with the realtor too. I mean, if he doesn't like the way it went, we got a fallout on it.
Okay, so we just she needs a motion, to go ahead. You said it. Gary, your light's on, so
I'll make a motion to go with a realtor on these properties.
To send out an RFP to realtors to sell these properties on the list.
yes.
Yes.
Pat,
We have a current list, but we'd also would want to develop a relationship with a realtor where it's an ongoing relationship. And so it would be not just on this list, but as the county acquires properties in the future to sell also. So it's not limited to this.
and as long as he's talking, I think we understand the saleability of certain properties is very low in some of these, and the expectation shouldn't be that they can't sell the ones that are more valuable first. It's just obviously that we want them to try to do it all, not just handpick. But we do understand as a group that the ones that are the most valuable are the ones that are going to sell first. That's just how it works. All right, so we got a motion.
Jim, I'll second it.
Oh, great second. That was a good second. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, good. All right. I feel tangible about that. So we're good. Use a realtor. And make the realtor do it all. Moving to C, 2123 East Main Street. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I guess did you all see the pictures? Yeah. So we had a complaint from a neighbor about this house. So Chief Deputy Dyer, Dawson went over to inspect it and took these pictures. This house it's county owned. It's being used by opiate addicts for drug use. Every time the building gets boarded up, they tear it down and get in anyhow. They've broken windows. The house itself is in not ever saleable condition. And I guess I'd like this committee to give approval to tear it down and then offer the lot for sale once the house is gone. There is one caveat. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly sure there's asbestos shingles on the side for siding. So we would have to do asbestos abatement. But house is a health hazard and it is a crime hazard. And the only real solution is to tear it down.
Are you sure we have to do asbestos abatement?
If you're touching asbestos, if you're tearing the building down, you're breaking the asbestos. So yes, you have to do asbestos abatement.
But are you thinking that means someone going in there with the suit and the mask and taking off the siding, or are you thinking?
I don't know exactly. We'd have to talk to a specific asbestos removal company, what it would take.
But look at the city ordinance, you might be able to get by, but I'm not sure. You might be able to get by with having spray water on that to dampen it so it's not getting into the air.
Yeah.
So you might end up with the fire department out there spraying, and as an excavator smashes it down and loads it up, doing that versus the action. Because if you get into the physical removal of that, hiring people to take it off.
It's expensive.
Well, yeah, it's unbelievably expensive, but I think just check with the city first on what's required before we hire individuals.
Yeah, and I would probably hire the highway department to tear it down. I think those guys would do it for free, to be honest. They'd have a lot of fun with it.
Is there a basement or a crawl space?
Yeah, I believe there is a basement. And I think there was a picture earlier that had a bottom window. And I think that's one of the ways people are getting in there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, but it's not entirely clear if that's a basement or a crawl space, but if it's a basement, then we got to bring in fill too.
Yeah.
But you want permission to dispose of it.
Yes. Yeah, there's a couple other hoarding houses. I would let Ashland Fire Department come in first and practice drilling in the roofs. I did ask the fire department if they wanted to do a controlled burn on it for practice, and they don't do that anymore.
Well, you can't with asbestos. I know that from.
Right.
What, I guess, did I hear what is it going to cost?
I'm not sure yet. But the fact is that it's being used as a drug house now, and it's causing a nuisance to the area. And it's only a matter of time before something happens there.
Okay, so we need a motion to destroy this, allow for the destruction of this house.
Yep.
Ms. Gary, I'll make a motion to demolish this house, and once it's cleaned up, sell the lot.
Okay, we got a motion. Looks like James is ready. He's fired up. Or Pat, one of them.
This Jim, I'll second that motion, yes.
Good. All right, all those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, none. So we are taking that down. All right, good. There's plenty of pictures.
There was one in there, right there, where you can see all the drug paraphernalia in it.
It's just gross enough already. So, okay, tear it down. Moving on. Schedule next meeting. We tried to skip a month, but every time we try, we never did. We skip a month? We did. Should we ever? Do we need to meet every month? No, we don't. You guys look at me and shake your heads. You want to see us less? That's what it seems like. Not. I don't know. We're a pretty good group. I feel like we're fun. Don't laugh. I know we're not fun for you. Okay, so tell me a date. Let's go August, because July I'm trying to recover from Little League. So August, it looks like if I bring up my calendar, this is August 12th. The Tuesday.
Mr. Kinney, does that work for you instead of, do you want finance to be on Wednesdays from now on?
Well, finance has been revolving around,
Oh, actually,
Right.
I'm gonna be in New York, so,
I'm gonna let him move finance around tomorrow because he's the chair.
Okay.
So he's
well,
he
okay,
doesn't-
I'm gonna be in
No.
New York anyhow, but
in August.
August 12th to 16th, I'll be in New York, and the 23rd to the 30th in Mexico.
I can't think that far ahead.
Jen, when do you anticipate there would be items that you would need action on?
Probably just the RFP for the realtor.
Do you need,
You don't need the committee for that.
I don't think, yeah,
All right, just kidding.
well, I mean, you can run it by him, but I mean, I think otherwise we're good. Do we really need a meeting before September?
No, I don't. It's up if they feel like, because right now the stuff I'm hearing, it seems like there's not a ton of pressure. We already changed the policy. So if September, yeah. So
Okay.
let's do September.
Well, so budgets.
The budget will run for finance committee.
We don't need to present it to this committee?
Well, half your committee's on finance. So,
Okay, so maybe we do keep it in August, just so I can hear about the budget before the budget. So let's do the 12th of August. You're gone, so we'll give you another pass, which is approved. We'll prove that. Pat,
I mean, what if we go a week later?
yeah,
well, that's the only week we can have finance. So that's fine if you want to make sure do finance on Wednesday or Thursday. Or we can do finance the first week in August too.
we could skip a month.
So
Actually,
you're looking at the 26th and 7th now?
No. No, I'll be gone the 26th and 27th.
So look at 19th and 20th?
Yeah, we could do 19th or 20th for finance. Or this committee.
yeah.
So how about the first week in August? Or actually, I don't need to be here. You guys can do it on the
The
12th.
5th?
Well, if we're looking at the budget, it would be
All right, then let's do it the 5th.
Okay.
August 5th?
5th. Jeez, you guys. Let's keep it at 3. Unless it's up to you. If you want to do it early, I like it. I like it. Gets me out of my office when I'm about to fall asleep. Oh, I got a Little League game I gotta leave to. So it's just every night. It's something. Anyways, August 5th at 3 p.m. Got her. Next is the most important one. And
Before you do that,
okay,
can I go back to what Pat mentioned, just so we are on the same page? As far as looking for property or what do you, I guess, what do you expect? Anything from us as far as what we should be looking for in the future?
No. I mean, first of all, none of us were aware of the ordinance as it is. So that'd be the first thing, is the next farmland preservation meeting, which we don't have a scheduled date yet, I don't think. But it should be coming up in the next few weeks, is to go from there. So the concern was, just things getting divvied up, but then you mentioned some obstacles for people, the mound system, but when you think about shared driveways and wells and the opportunity, if it's families, if they want to have a shared outbuildings and stuff, there's some positives if they want to do that, even if they have to both put in mound systems. But it's good for us just to know that. And if we have people in the county that don't realize you can have a lot that small, it's good.
Guaranteed 3/4 more.
They do know? Did not know that yet. Yeah, so I think, how do we make that more widely known? Something to ponder.
Great pondering.
This,
The last item on the agenda.
you done, Bruce?
We should-
Okay, we're done for, aren't
Cut
we?
pretty short.
This is Pat. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, we're all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.